Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to make custom floating shelves from some old walnut that I had laying around. Several years ago I slabbed a downed walnut tree. I stacked it behind my workshop and allowed it to air dry for 1 year per inch of thickness. Most of my slabs were about 2 inches thick and they're now ready to begin milling out for use. So I'm going to use these slabs to make custom floating shelves for the new kitchen. With that said, let's get to work. At this point of the project, I'm getting everything ready to accept the shelves, so that means installing the brackets. But before I can install the brackets, I have to lay out my measurements on the wall and then get everything cut out. The process is a bit tedious and extremely time-consuming. Actually, most of the elements of this process is going to be extremely time-consuming and quite repetitive. So to keep everybody sane, I sped the video into fast forward so you could see what's taking place, but at the same time, you're not actually having to suffer through it like I did. The weather forecast was showing some pretty big snow in the next few days, so I knew I had to get all of those slabs out from behind my shop and stacked neatly in the yard where I could easily shovel my way out to it the next day. Once the brackets were installed and the walls were taped, spackled, and painted, I was finally able to make my way back out into the shop and begin the fabrication process. But before I could start working, I needed to do a little straightening up. After nearly 2 years of my workshop being a dumping ground for several construction projects, things can get a little messy. So I bought this old cast iron wood stove off of Facebook Marketplace going back several years now. This old iron beast eats through wood like a hungry beaver, but let me tell you something. That old girl will force you down to a t-shirt in no time. And on the coldest winter day, you'll be pushing those bay doors open looking for a cold breeze. Okay, so here I'm using my electric hand planer to flatten out the slabs. I need to be able to get them basically flat and level on one side so that I have an even surface to push through the thickness planing. I'll give it a quick eyeball, and then if everything looks good, it's off to the next slab. I take my 6-foot level and put it on the planing surface. If you get your eyes down onto the surface of the wood and try to look underneath the level, you'll see little divots and dips where light comes through. I'll mark out all the high areas with a pencil and continue to do that every few inches across the board. This is going to help me see all of my high and low spots and help me to determine what I need to plane down. Then, it's back to the hand planer. Over the years, I've collected a few old hand planes that are probably ballpark of a century or so old. I've restored them, gave them a fresh edge on the blade of the old iron, and now I just really enjoy using them on most of my projects. The smaller plane I use is called a jack plane. It helps me take off a little more meat so that I can use the longer plane, which is my joiner plane. The joining plane helps me to really fine-tune the board and get it smooth and level. Although I'm nowhere near finished planing down the boards, The finished product of a sharp hand plane, after you've ran it over the board a few times, is something I've found can't be achieved any other way. It is so smooth to the touch, and its beauty, it's second to none. Now that the boards are flat, I can start pushing them through the thickness planer. The planer doesn't flatten the boards, instead it removes material from the board until you've reached your desired thickness. That's why it's very important to make sure that one side of your board is perfectly flat prior to pushing it through the planer. For these boards, I'm trying to reach a thickness of approximately 1 3/4 inches, so I've got a decent amount of planing to do. I use my joiner plane to square up the sides of the board. Due to the size of my shop, I don't have a large electronic joiner, so my restored hand plane will have to do. The result? Not so bad. I'll give the boards one more sand before I clean them up and get them ready for the router. I use my router to put a smooth rounded edge on one side of my 3 smaller shelves. The larger shelves will have a live edge and the router won't be necessary, so I'll just clean them up and smooth them out with the palm sander. Once I finished the 3 smaller shelves, it was on to the big boys. Just like with the other 3, I have to start from scratch, and I have to plane out one side to get it prepped for the thickness planer. It's a lot of work, I know, but as you gradually mill out these beautiful planks and slowly observe the natural grains and contours with each pass of the planer, the reward is priceless. The 3 live edge shelves only need one side cut straight and square so that it fits nicely up against the wall once the shelves are installed. I measure out where I want to cut, and then I use my 6-foot level and a couple of clamps to keep it in place as a guide for my saw while I rip off the excess material. A few more passes with the jack plane to fine-tune the board, and I should be ready to start running them through the thickness planer. A few passes with the joiner to tighten everything up, and I think we're ready to start working on the live edge. So I've already cleaned up the face of the boards off camera, and here I'm just sanding them down to try to smooth everything out and reveal the natural contours, knot structures, and the little imperfections that give each face its character. The edge of the boards aren't going to be seen, but it's still very important to square them up so that everything has a neat and finished look once they're installed. To accomplish this, I use my chop saw. Walnut is a very dense wood, so it's very important to take small passes with the tip of your blade and slowly work your way through the cut so you don't bind up the blade or leave any burn marks behind. Before the boards can be finished, I need to round off the freshly cut edges and go over each board individually with fine grit sandpaper. Each shelf is finished with an oil-based semi-gloss polyurethane wood sealer. I apply it with a cotton rag liberally and wipe off the excess. I'll allow the boards to dry just enough that it's no longer sticky to the touch, and then apply one more full coat before allowing it to cure for 24 hours. This is the final step before the installation. This particular shelf had some pretty deep checking on the edges of the board, and I used a cedar shim to push the sealer down into the deep voids. The result was absolutely stunning. In order to create the illusion of a floating shelf, there has to be some method to attach the shelf to the wall without being able to observe the hardware that's doing the work. And this is where those funny looking brackets that I installed earlier in the video come into play. Once I place the shelf on top of the brackets, I mark out the center of each bracket on the underside of the shelf. Back in the shop, I transfer that mark to the rear of the board and make a center mark for my drill bit. Of all the phases in this project, drilling out the holes for the brackets probably ranks as the most important to get right the first time, because once you start drilling, you don't get a second shot. I can't stress how important it is to make sure that your drill bit is centered and level from every angle as you slowly proceed down the meat of the shelf. This would definitely be a lot easier with a drill press, but since I don't have one in my shop, I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and just eye it up. The trick is to take your time. Keep an eye on the drill bit from all sides and change your perspective with every half inch or so of drilling. I found it was a lot easier to start with a very small bit in order to help my larger bit drill out the dense material with a little more ease. So, moral of the story, stay calm, take your time. Don't rush the process. So that's it, that's the process. From rugged slabs to pretty floating shelves. It took several weeks of work and a few hours here and there in my days off, but in the end, the time spent was time well worth it. If you like this video, let me know what you think and leave a comment. Otherwise, I wish you well. So get out there in that shop and make something. Thanks for watching.